All right, yo, I'm upset. Too many technical issues. This is take two. Okay, so I have a mic now, so maybe you can hear me a little better. But also want to say, I didn't plan this fully through. I am 51 hours into my water fast, so please bear with me on like the scheduling for posting. But yeah, here we go. All right, so we hit the multiple choice question section. So here, let's start. 63. Mr. Jones has 550 goats. So this person, if I said this was J is equal to 550, but let's just continue reading, which is 10% more than Mr. King has. So this second piece gives you a relation between J and K, right? If I let K represent the amount that Mr. King has. So if Mr. Jones has 550, so they're saying which is equal to 10% more than Mr. King has. Well, think about it. King has 100% of what he has, right? So 10% of that would be 110% more of K. And this question is testing your knowledge on converting percents into decimals. So 110% is equivalent to 1.1, right, of means times. So it's 1.1 times K. So 550 is equal to 1.1 K, right? And now we can use this equation to solve for K. Divide both sides by 1.1, divide both sides, right? So it's 1.1 here. And then that means that K is equal to this, 550 over 1.1. You can find this answer by long dividing like this, but let me show you another trick, okay? It's a little more intuitive. Well, pretend that we're dividing by 11 instead of 1.1, right? So let's do 550 divided by 11. This is just equal to 50, okay? But then now you compare 11 with 1.1. This is 10 times bigger than 1.1. So that means that the answer should be 10 times as big as 50. So that's going to be K is equal to uh, 500. Okay? But we are not done because it says how many more goats does Mr. Jones have than Mr. King? So this is not asking you for King, so don't fall for D. Okay? So now it says how many more goats does he have? Well, I know how much Jones has 550. So now we just compare 550 to 500, and that's just you can subtract or you can just say that's 50. So it's A, right? So we could do 550 minus 500, you're going to get the same answer. Okay. Yeah. With subsequent retakes, this becomes more frustrating and boring for me, but hopefully, yeah, I won't flop as much. But yeah, anyways, 64. They're saying that if this fraction subtraction problem is equal to this fraction and x is not equal to 0, by the way, this x is not equal to 0 is there because you cannot divide by 0, right? If this is 0, then if you're dividing by 0, that becomes undefined, okay? That's why they have that piece there. What expression is represented by square or the numerator? So we have to find the numerator, basically. Well, here we're subtracting fractions, right? But if you look at the left side here, the fractions don't have the same denominators, and you need the same denominators to subtract. Well, the first fraction here is missing a factor of 2, so that means we multiply both top and bottom by 2. So then that means that the first fraction is equivalent to 2 times y times 2, which is equivalent to 4y. X times 2 is equivalent to 2x. So now we can do 4y minus 2 over 2x minus y over 2x. And then you can subtract fractions with the same denominator by keeping the denominator the same and just subtracting the numerators. 4y minus y is 3y. So 3y over 2x. And if you compare this with the answer choice, I mean, at the right side, we're missing 3y. So it's got to be 3y. Choice G. Okay, 65. Okay, so on my first take on this question, I did a harder example, but you don't have to think that hard. But as an exercise, I want you to do the harder example based off of the reasoning I'm about to give you. Okay, so in the figure above, PQRS is a square. Okay, so they give you a square, and point S is the center of the circle right here, and points P and R on the circle. So look at this. They're saying that, look, just from that sentence, I can see that the side length of the square is the same as the radius of the circle, right? So if the area of the square is 4 square centimeters, so they're telling you that all of this is 4. What is the area in square centimeters of the shaded quarter of the circle? So we have to find basically the quarter circle right here, okay? So remember the area of a square. That's just its square, its side squared, right? So if they're telling you that the area is 4, and I say it's the side s squared, that means all I got to do to find s is just take the square root of this, right? So that means that s is equal to 2. Okay, but s is also, what did I say? It doubles up as the radius for the circle. So that means that this is also equal to r. If you're confused by this, just think of this as r is equal to 2. Okay, so this is, the radius is 2. Okay, and we need to find the quarter circle. Well, why don't we first find the area of the whole circle? We remember area is equal to pi r squared, and we know r is equal to 2, so we substitute that back in here. So that's 2 squared, that's 4. So area of the whole circle is 4 pi times 4, which is 4 pi. Okay, but we don't want the whole circle. We want a fourth of that, right? Because it's a quarter, right? So that means we're taking a fourth of this, so we multiply this by 1/4. So that's 4 pi times 1/4, which is the same thing as saying pi. So that means that the answer choice is going to be B. Yeah, okay. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah, 4 and 1/4. Okay, great. All right, next. So this 66, okay, is like a CS question. Okay, so a list of consecutive integers. Consecutive means that you don't skip numbers. Integers are like whole numbers, possibly with negatives, right? Begins with m and n, and ends with n. If n minus m is equal to 66, how many integers are in the list? So before we do this, let's look at a specific example. Let's look at the integers from 1 to 10, right? Including those n's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? Now, this is the start, and this is the end, okay? Now, I want to see if I can create some kind of formula with this to see how many numbers there are. Well, using the ends in the start. Well, the end is 10, and then you subtract that with the start. That's 10 minus 1. That's 9. But how many numbers are here? There's 10. So that means that it looks like I can add one more to this, and that gives me 10, right? So look into this. If it's a little confusing, try it with any like numbers like from 10 to like 15 and see if this works. But it's gonna work, okay? But basically the formula is end minus start plus 1, okay? So now here they didn't give you from 1 to 10. They gave you from m to n. So that means that if I'm starting at m here, dot, 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 and this is n, and if I use this formula, I say it's the end minus the start. So it's going to be n minus m, right? Plus 1. And that's going to represent how many numbers are in this list. Well, n minus m, that's what they gave you. This is 66. So that means that this portion here is 66. So that means the total number of numbers is going to be 66 plus 1, which is equal to 67. So it's got to be h. Okay, 67. Simplify. So in order to do this, there are a few ways. You could do PEMDAS. I'm going to do with PEMDAS, but if you wanted to, you could multiply the top and bottom by the same number, and to like simplify this complex fraction, you should do that way too as an exercise. But here, PEMDAS is going to tell me to do this first, okay? And now I look into that. Now, notice that I could distribute the 39 into both, but don't do that because that's tedious. There's a 39 on top and a 3 on bottom, so that means that I can do this first. So 39 over 3. 39 divided by 3 is 13, and that means I have the x minus 3 left in parentheses, right? And then I do plus 39 over 13. Okay, but then notice there's two terms on the top, and they're sharing a common denominator of 13. So that means that I can do this and this, right? Because if you split that up, it's like this over 13 plus 39 over 13. Okay, and then 13 is on top and 13 is on bottom, so we can cross that out. So it's going to be x minus 3 plus 39 divided by 13, that's 3. So then that means I'm just going to do x minus 3 plus 3, and that's just equal to x, which is choice A. Okay, next piece, 68. Jar 1 and jar 2 each contain half cup of water. Okay, so let's draw a picture for this. So let that be jar 1, and let this be jar 2. Okay, and let's represent the whole rectangle as a whole cup, 1 cup, right? Only half of that's filled, right? So this is half a cup for both of them. Okay, now let's continue reading. Now, if they're saying 1/4 of the water in jar 1 is poured into jar 2, okay? So how much water is in jar 2? Now in jar 2, okay? So let's look at this picture. Well, they're saying 1/4 of the water in jar 1. So that's 1/4 of, well, how much is in jar 1? It was given that it was a half. So now to find out how much is being transferred to jar 2, we're gonna have to do this fraction multiplication, right? Because of means times. So 1/4 times a half, that's 1/8. So 1/8 of the water is being transferred over here. Transferring the water means adding water. So this is going to be 1/8 plus a half. And now to do this math, you have to get the denominators to be the same. And I know that there's 8 is a common denominator for both, changing this by multiplying by 4 on both. So this is going to be 4/8 plus 1/8, which is the same as saying 5/8, which is choice G. Okay, great. Let me keep moving up. Okay, last question. So if n is a whole number and 0.01 is between 1 over n and 1 over n plus 2, what is the value of n? Okay, so these are your n's, right? Like there's this number, right? 0.01, and it's being trapped in between these two bounds, okay? And that the bounds are a function of n. Okay, so we need to find what is the value of n. So in order to do this, we can just plug in all the choices, right? So if I let n is equal to 0, and I plug this in back into these bounds, well, what's going to happen? Well, look, there's a problem. I said that it's going to be 1 over 0, but you cannot divide by 0, so this can't be it, right? Because this is going to be undefined. B, let's say for 1. So if I put 1 in for n, this bound is going to be 1 over 1, and the next bound is going to be 1 over 1 plus 2, which is 1/3, right? And then this is the number, 0.01 is the same as saying 1/100th, right? But if you know a thing or two about your fractions and your decimals, the common ones, we know that this is 0.3 repeated, and this is just 1. This is 0.01. It cannot be in between here because it's smaller than the smaller of the two, okay? Similarly for 2, if I let n equals 2, that's going to be 1/2 and 1 over 2. Let me make this clear. Yeah, so it's going to be 1/2 and 1 over 2 plus 2, which is going to be 1/4, right? The smaller of the two is this, which is 0.25, and the bigger is 0.5, but similarly 0.01 is not in between these, so it can't be C. So just by process of elimination alone, you could just say it's D, right? But as a sanity check, we can do that. Let's substitute 99 for n. So that means the two bounds are going to be 1 over 99 and 1 over 101. And like I said, if you know that this decimal as a fraction is 1 over 100, this is indeed between 1 over 99 and 1 over 101. Okay, so it's going to be D. Okay, I'm done. Hopefully this take was better. This is definitely a bit more boring for me, so hopefully I don't have to do these retakes. But yeah. All right, anyways, good luck and stay tuned. Bye.